Hello, friends, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen, the Family Connection podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Samantha Hayes, educator, parent, and founder of Beyond the Screen Families. And today, after taking a week off, because, well, as I'm sure you know, life can get hectic. And in May, if you're a parent, it seems to ramp up like December. In fact, we call it Maycember. So the start of May has already started that way for me. And I missed recording an episode ahead of time and then decided just to skip it because I thought you all could wait just another week. So we're going to go a little more personal today because I want to talk about something I think a lot of parents feel, but don't always say out loud. If I could go back, there are things I would do differently. Yes, my daughter is 7 and my son is almost 4. But in thinking even about my daughter's life, there are things that I look back on in just the 7 years and think I would have done X had I been aware, knowledgeable, understanding of all of the things that I am now. And while I can't go back, I'm able to make adjustments in her life now and in my son's life now that I wish I would have maybe done, I don't know, 6.5 years ago. And I'm sure you say the same thing. And it's not because we're doing something wrong. It's not because we're like, gosh, you didn't even know what you were doing as a mom. Although sometimes I feel that way about myself. Do you? It's because we know more now that we think that. And that's what I just talked to you about. That what I know now has transformed what I wish I would have done in the past. And if you're listening to this and thinking, am I doing enough? Am I getting this right? Because let's be real, we all have those moments as a mom. I want this episode to feel like a deep exhale for you. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness. It's about growth. And it's about what actually matters. So I want to share with you child number one experience versus child number two experience. I've lived this evolution in real time with my own kids and as an educator, right? So my first child had significantly more TV time than my second child. There were times when we were playing and the TV was on. My daughter was an early morning riser. And by early, I mean 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I struggled with that. Like that time after not sleeping was so hard. And there are many times we would snuggle up in bed together and I would turn the TV on, or we'd go out into the living room and I'd turn the TV on because I just needed continued downtime. My brain and body were not registering that it was time to get up. And there were times where sometimes I'd be like, oh, let's just sit inside and watch a movie. We watched Secret Life of Pets 1 and 2 so many times because my daughter loved that movie. And it was an easy thing for me. It wasn't that I cared less. I cared so much about her getting the right upbringing. So much so that as a mom, I was struggling um, to feed her, breastfeed her. And yet, I also didn't want to give her formula. And now my second child, that's a totally different story because I've come to a lot of realizations as a mom. So it wasn't that I cared less. I cared. I cared, but I wasn't aware yet. I wasn't fully aware. And in the 7 years-ish that she's been alive, there is so much research and information coming out about screen time and how it changes our brain. And that awareness has transcended and transformed what I do. It has transformed what I do with my own children and how I help and support you. Because I wasn't always removing the screens. Now, was I ever ready to give my kid an iPad? Did my kid have a personalized device? I was not. Like that's not where we were, and I knew I didn't want that. But the TV time, I was like, okay, screens were helpful. They were convenient. They were a way for me to get things done when she was very little. And honestly, I mean, that's still true, right? I mean, there are days when I feel exhausted and I'm like, let's just turn on the screen because I know they're going to sit there and be quiet. But as I've continued my work in education, as I've spent more time observing children, as I continue to learn more about development, attention span, dopamine, regulation, and research continues to come out about those things, I really started to see the big picture. So by the time my second child came along, I made different choices, not perfect ones, by far not perfect ones, but more intentional ones. And I think it's important to say this isn't about getting it right from the start. We are all humans living human lives. It's about adjusting as you learn. So, if I could go back, here's what I would understand earlier. Screens aren't always the problem. And I know you hear this over and over from me that it's about balance. It's the problem was we were filling space that mattered more than I realized. At the time, I was thinking, my daughter's learning something. She's watching this show. Like, she's got this. She's calm. It's fine. And sometimes, let's be frank, it was. It was fine. But what I didn't see and what I didn't truly grasp and put my mind around what that was replacing. Things like boredom, creativity, independent play, real world problem solving. Those moments didn't feel important in the moment, but they're where so much development happens. And when screens fill every gap, those opportunities, well, they shrink. So this isn't like something that I could have gone back and been like, stop doing screens. I was exhausted, right? But I wish I had understood and I didn't fully wrap my brain around those in between moments and how powerful what they were. This shift is what I wish I made sooner. It's not about how much screen time kids have. It's about their lives and are they full outside of it? Because you can have low screen time, but also have low connection, low play, low independence. Or you could have moderate screen use, but have strong connection with others, creativity, and real life experiences. Balance isn't about restriction as much as it's about presence. It's about making sure our kids are regularly experiencing open-ended play, movement, connection, and curiosity. When those things are strong, screens naturally take a smaller role. So if I could go back, I don't think I'd still eliminate screens. In fact, if you know, as you know, not if you know, as you know, we aren't a screen-free family here. We are a screen minimal family. So we do not watch TV during the week. We have movie night on Friday, and we have a little bit of Saturday morning cartoons and often a little bit of Sunday morning cartoons. My daughter has uh, a Chromebook that she has at school that they use sparingly at school, and that's it. They don't have personalized devices, and they're not getting them for a long time, although they think they need them because their friends have them. So here are a few things I would shift, though. I would protect boredom. And protecting boredom is something I'm very passionate about now. I wouldn't try to fill it because that is where the magic happens. Allowing your child to get bored and figuring out how to entertain themselves afterward is where the most creativity occurs. So, protecting boredom, number one, all out, the thing I would suggest everyone works towards. Number two, I would introduce open-ended play sooner and more consistently, not just toys, but materials that invite creativity. We have them in our house now. It's something that I'm super passionate about having, but I didn't start that with my daughter, and I wish I would have. I would rely less on screens as a default. Screens are the easy button, but they don't need to be the default, especially during those small in-between moments. So less about turning the screen on, more about having those loose materials, having boredom, and allowing it to really take hold. I would prepare for alternatives ahead of time because the hardest moments are those unplanned ones. So just having things in my back pocket, as you know, I talk about all the time, having back pocket activities. And I would remind myself that balance is built over time. We aren't perfect in one day. So this is exactly why I created the Wonder Box and why the Wonder Box matters so much. Because if I'm being completely honest, one of the hardest things as a parent is having something ready, those back pocket activities that I talk about, something that invites curiosity, sparks play, gives your child a starting point without having you have to think about it in the moment when you're probably already overwhelmed. The Wonder Box does that. It does that for you. It gives your child a way to engage with the real world in a way that feels fun and not forced. And if I could go back, it's something I would have created so long ago because it is something that I would have been more comfortable just pulling out and saying, okay, let's do this instead of turning on the screen. You can get the link for the Wonder Box in the show notes. You can subscribe to it or also buy it as a one-time box. Subscriptions happen on a quarterly basis because the cards are reusable. And so once a quarter gives you just that fresh like supply of materials and cards, and you can play around with it over and over again. So I want to leave you with this. You don't need to get this perfect. Your kids don't need to be perfect. They can't be. They need awareness, connection, and opportunities to grow. And the fact that you're even thinking about this and listening to the end tells me you're already doing more right, doing more good than you think. We don't parent from perfection. We parent from learning. And that's enough. Thanks for spending a little of your time with me today. Here's to creating more moments that stick. Bye, friends.